This episode of Legends, the series, is brought to you by these fine companies.
Did you guys have the kind of relationship that you could speak volumes to one another without even opening your mouth?
We, I could tell him exactly what I thought. He could tell me exactly what he thought, and we'd never get angry at each other about that. It's like our communication level is really good. And I'll tell you, the longer we worked together and raced together, sometimes we didn't even have to talk because we knew exactly what the other guy was doing all the time anyway. So we were really close. So our communication was great. My brother was he's 4 years younger than me growing up, so I was always a big brother. He's a little brother, but we were best friends because we lived out in the sticks, out on the ranch here, so we didn't have a lot of neighbors. But he was a good kid, but we got in our share of fights as brothers do. I always come out second best because, the little brother hits you first, the big brother hits back, big brother gets in trouble. So, my brother and I, when we did get in fights or disagreements, it was generally over, something that we were doing together. And seeing as I was the big brother, I always figured I should do it first, right? And so that would sometimes trigger a little bit of disagreement there. But generally, as we got older, I tended to give in to him a little bit and kind of treat him a little bit better, kind of as more of a mentor and a protector than an adversary. When it came down to him getting to drive, it kind of, it was kind of the same thing when we were little kids, when we had go-karts. It's my turn. Alan, it's my turn. And next race. Well, eventually, I had to give in, and it's like it was his turn. He got to drive.
A great start by both drivers. They are side by side. This is a drag race. And it is Alan Johnson, the red car in the near lane. Identical elapsed times. 6.47 seconds for both drivers. The computer calls it the red car, Alan Johnson.
Good little run with 6:47. You happy with that?
Oh, well, I was a little bit down, but I think it's a little weak. We were trying to play a little safer, burn it up last night, so wanted to start a little conservative.
Particularly hot day. Is it getting to you?
Nah, I don't think so. We're going to make it.
Go out and give him hell.
Thanks.
He looks pretty comfortable, and there's one of the reasons why.
When we raced Sportsman, when we started racing Alcohol Dragster and NHRA, I was the driver. He was too young to drive at the time. I think I started when I was 18, 19, 20, right in there, and he was 4 years behind me. So, I just kept telling him, hey, when you get old enough, you can drive. Then he got old enough, and I still wouldn't let him drive. But he just kept pressuring me. And eventually, I thought it was probably a good idea to put him in the car and let him drive and let me just be the crew chief. And that obviously worked out a lot better. But, yeah, he always wanted to drive. But, I held on as long as I could, but finally I gave in. And it was probably a good idea. The amazing thing about my brother was that not only was he was an exceptionally good driver, but he also knew everything about the car. When we first started racing Top Fuel, I had just started my cylinder head company, so he worked for me, and there were days when he'd punch the clock and just work on the race car, assemble the race car, and do all that. And I'd just pay him to do that rather than working on cylinder heads, because I had to have somebody. We had to have somebody capable of doing it, and he was the best thing going. So he was really good at that. You know, he never really wanted to tune the car so much, but he was definitely involved in our decisions to some point. But you know, his thing was driving, but he knew everything about the car. You know, the first time my brother drove at a national event was the Gator Nationals in 1988. That was his first national event, and we won. So, like, he really didn't know what losing was like. You know, that was, you know, it didn't start out well. We didn't qualify. We were number 17, but we got in on the alternate rule, and then ended up winning the race. So, it was that first driving experience for him was pretty cool.
Did you ever think, wow, we don't even qualify, but yet we still win? Did you think that, my gosh, there's something special about this kid, not just because he was your brother?
You know, when my brother first started driving, you know, I knew before he even started driving that he'd be a good driver. He's just one of those kids that was, his focus was exceptional. You know, so you could put him in any situation, and he was, you know, he could, if I had him running a CNC machine, he could block out everything there was and do programming on that. There was nothing that could interrupt him. He just had really good focus. And then in driving, you know, nothing rattled him. You know, he got in the car and he had a job to do, and he took care of it. Nothing scared him, so he was really good at it. You know, Blaine was, you know, he was never, you know, he's never an arrogant, cocky kid. You know, he was as humble as they come. But, you know, he was good. And, you know, I think the two of us, because we knew each other so well, we worked together well, we just made a great team. You know, me running the car, him working on the car, and him driving the car. I mean, it got to the point, and I do remember, after one of the races, we raced Tom Conway in Topeka, and you know, Tom came over to me afterwards and said, you know, I can beat you, and I can beat your brother, but I can't beat you both at the same time. You guys do a great job. So that's one of the things that I valued a lot coming from Tom. You know, he hated to lose like we both did. You know, and I think that was one of the driving forces that helped us win, is we just hated losing so much, you know. So we would do pretty much whatever it took, as much work as it took to, you know, put on a win light. That's, you know, that's kind of the way we roll. Well, the times my brother and I talked about, you know, what he wanted to do or what I wanted to do, it was pretty much everything was based around drag racing. I mean, we both went to school and majored in dairy science because we were eventually just going to take over the ranch and milk cows the rest of our life. But outside of that, it was all about drag racing. I mean, that was what we did. That's, you know, besides working, it was all drag racing. You know, we had some conversations. You know, we traveled from race to race when we were doing Sportsman, Alcohol Dragster, and we did a lot of flying. And then, you know, when we raced Top Fuel, we did a lot of flying. So we had a lot of time together to discuss things. And, you know, we talked about wanting to race professionally at some point. And that really came to light when we sold our dairy in 1984. So we were both fresh out of college with our dairy science degrees, and then sold the dairy. So we had to look for something to do. And, you know, our goal was to try and make a living out of drag racing. You know, we had so much success in Alcohol Dragster that you know, I think it was kind of a natural step to move to Top Fuel. You know, it wasn't really something we could afford to do, but we had, you know, we had some friends that had, you know, we were good friends with the Austins, you know, and they ended up running Gary Ormsby's car there for a few years. Pat drove that, and then Del Worsham, you know, they were also, you know, alcohol funny car racers, and they went racing out nitro funny cars. So they were instrumental probably in us making that change, because, you know, we were really afraid of the cost and what it was going to take to do it. And, you know, they kind of convinced us that we'd be okay, you know, that we would be able to, you know, get enough, you know, product sponsors together, and if we could at least go a few rounds every race, you know, we could almost break even doing it. And so, you know, we took their word for it and gave it a shot. Turned out pretty good.
Blaine Johnson taking his first ever win in Top Fuel in round 1 against the legend, Kenny Bernstein.
And there's his crew chief, Brother Allen, saying, nail this guy, lead first, be alert. Blaine Johnson out of AAA ball, so to speak, a 4-time world champion in the top alcohol dragsters, but this is a whole other league.
So he's got to hit a home run here.
Coletto away first. And it is got Coletto by a full car length.
You know, the first few races when we were doing Top Fuel, you know, obviously it was a tremendous amount of work just switching over, and we didn't really know anything about Top Fuel. I mean, we were good racers, but Top Fuel's a different game, so it was a lot of stuff we had to learn. So that was that winter that we switched over from between 1993 and 1994, it was a lot of work. And what was kind of disappointing is, you know, the first few races we went to, we dropped cylinders almost every single run. And so it got frustrating, and besides the frustration, you know, we were running a lot of parts because you're making runs with the cylinders out, and it just beat the engine up. So, you know, we just figured we had to quit for a while until we figured this out. So we ended up figuring it out. It was nothing more than really an ignition issue that we finally got sorted out, and then, you know, and then it became kind of fun. You know, I mean, it was still a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun as well.
The most money ever on the line in a 2-car drag race, as big as a $150,000 swing is possible here. Blaine Johnson has won his first title, and oh my, look at this. He picks Larry Dixon's pocket for 50 grand.
You know, I don't know that my brother and I ever really had, you know, in-depth conversations about how we felt when we won. You know, it was pretty obvious that we were overjoyed, and I think that first Top Fuel win was, you know, we were just so excited. We had spent basically a full 2 years. We started in '94, raced that entire year, and then raced the entire '95. Had some runner-ups along the way, but that last race, you know, of the year to finally break through and win it, yeah, it was spectacular. You know, we just had a blast together that night.
When do you hear this, buddy? You not only won your first race, 468, you got the 50.
That's beautiful. Gosh, it's unbelievable. We've been trying so hard this year, and nothing ever seemed to go our way. And today it was just perfect. You know, we made the right calls at the right time. And, you know, I drove good this weekend. The crew did an awesome job. I mean, they worked flawlessly all day long. Al made the right calls, and we won the race.
You won the race and a whole lot of money. I'll tell you, the winter's going to go a lot easier for these guys in Santa Maria with that cash.
Let's see if there's any psychological games on the starting line. Both drivers like the stage last, but somebody has to stage first. Let's see who it's going to be. Pre-stage. Hey, good staging.
Blaine Johnson's quicker out of the lights, and he's got the motor as Connie goes up in flames. The chutes don't come out. Connie Coletta trying to bring it to a stop. As the fire got to the parachutes, it just incinerated them. Connie makes the turn, experience showing there, and Blaine Johnson picks up the win with a 473, 299 miles an hour to a losing 482, 297 for Connie Coletta.
1996, you guys are, I mean, the sky's the limit. You guys are winning. Tell me about the 1996 season when you guys went into that year. Did you have a clue what was ahead of you?
You know, going into 1996, you know, we were fresh off our win, you know, at the finals in 95. So, and we had been in, that was our 5th final of the year at Pomona. And so we were really upbeat. You know, we just got a pretty good injection of cash there for winning that last race. So we were, you know, we were really excited about 96. And we went out, you know, to the Winter Nationals, and we won that race. So, you know, we had back-to-back wins at Pomona. So we had, you know, we had some pretty good wind at our back, and so, you know, at that point, you know, as well as we raced in 95 and didn't get a win until the last race, we knew that once we broke through that, you know, we were going to get some wins in 96. And as the season went, you know, along, you know, we got a points lead, and we kind of built on the points lead, and you know, we had our sights set on winning the championship. I mean, we were fired up, we were focused, we were ready to go. You know, there was you know, there were some people out there that didn't think we would be able to make it, you know, because over the full 18 events, they figured we'd, you know, run low on cash and, you know, have a hard time making it. But, you know, we didn't need a lot of cash to race because, you know, we raced pretty smart. We didn't break a lot of stuff, and you know, we did a lot of the work ourselves. So we were going to make it. There was no problem with that.
Blaine Johnson in his Travers Tool Company car, with the wheels up off the starting line, took away the top qualifying spot and recorded the quickest run in history, 4.592.
You know, Alan's been making the calls all weekend. It's amazing how you can deal with so much horsepower and come out with the right call on the AT every lap. So I give them a lot of credit, and Travers Tools for sticking with us.
How big of a deal was that, or did you guys just get a toolbox or something out of it? Was that a pretty decent deal?
Our Travers tool sponsor, you know, that was a great company. You know, it wasn't a lot of money, you know, but they gave us a little bit of cash per race, and you know, every little bit of help you could get financial wise when you're an independent racer is a big deal. And that's, you know, it was just enough to just kind of put us over the hump. You know, it just kind of paid, you know, a good portion of those traveling expenses and hotel rooms, all that stuff. So, you know, it just kind of put us over the hump to where we could just get by.
Well, Jesse James, you came here to rob the bank, and you definitely have done that.
Oh boy, it was a great weekend. Everything seemed to go our way all weekend, and no problems. I mean, no big problems. I mean, there's nothing we couldn't work around. But, you know, Alan makes some serious horsepower, and these guys are in trouble if this thing continues to run like it is. We found a few things this weekend. It's going to be a consistent sucker. Did
you guys take special glory or satisfaction in doing the most with the least?
You know, I think that any time that you can compete with, you know, some really well-financed teams, and you know that you're not really as well-financed as you could be or should be, you know, that feels pretty good when you can beat them, bust them upside the chops, outrun them. You know, it was pretty fun.
The sponsorships, the media, and all that stuff, of course, that comes along with the going big time as you guys did. Was that a necessary evil to Blaine and yourself?
You know, the whole media part of it, I think it was probably more of a hindrance to myself than it was to my brother. He kind of enjoyed doing it. You know, he was good at it. He's a personable guy, and he enjoyed talking to people. And you know, I wasn't like that. I just soon stay in the shop and work and get stuff figured out.
Yeah, Kenny Bernstein and Blaine Johnson.
trying to achieve supremacy in Top Fuel that would lead to a Winston championship. This time it was Blaine Johnson's turn to win. 467 at 306 miles an hour. Blaine saw the win light come on in his lane at Sears Point. He knew he had the upper hand in the Top Fuel points chase, and the celebration started before the car even stopped rolling.
Congratulations to the Johnsons and the Budweiser King team. They're coming to the win. People are very well following each other. Like you said, to the great racing coach. I hope you enjoy it.
He's been tuning Blaine Johnson all through his career. The brother act ready to go. And you can bet, Steve, they pulled everything they had off the trailer and loaded it into the car. Oh, and up and over goes Scott Coletta.
Ever discuss the dangers of drag racing, fuel racing?
You know, that was really nothing that we ever discussed. It's obviously we knew what the dangers were. And there was things that, we did. We made sure that our car was safe. We had all the best safety equipment. We did everything we could to, protect him, but it was nothing that we ever really talked about. So, it was, when you're young like that, it's pretty much you're wide open all the time anyway, and you're not, just because something's dangerous doesn't mean that you're gonna not do it, or do something different. We tried to protect ourselves and protect him as much as possible, but as far as, being worried that it's such a dangerous sport, it's like, hey, if your ticket's punched, your ticket's punched. There's not much you can do about that.
Travers tool car, Blaine Johnson, Kenny Bernstein. Bernstein looking to move up in the points. This is a very pivotal race, and almost 2-in-1 race. Blaine brings it back down. Bernstein gets the win with a brilliant 462.
We had just raced in Brainerd. Was the race before Indy. It has been for a number of years, but we'd raced there. We had a really good shot at winning that race. And the car did a wheel stand in I believe it was the semifinals. We got beat, and that was the one time that he was a little bit pissed at me because I didn't put enough weight in the front end. The thing was carrying the front end, and I didn't want to mess with it too much. And then semifinals, we tuned the thing up a little bit, and it carried the wheels a little too far, and he had to shut it off. So he was pretty pissed at me, but. We got over that, went to Indy, and, we're just going about doing our normal thing. There's really there's nothing different about it. We just went out there, made our normal run, and, set low ET like we've done that a lot of times, so that wasn't unusual. But the unusual part was that, it broke a rod when he shut it off. It basically didn't break the rod, but I think a rod bolt failed when he shut off.
Nationals are usually laced with festivity, but in early qualifying, Blaine Johnson met with ultimate tragedy just before the finish line.
It ended up, the rod got stuck between the crankshaft and the side of the block, and just basically the engine went from 83 or 400 to zero instantly, and it just ripped the back tires off of it, and I think he was out of control after that. There was nothing he could do. It was just along for the ride.
A true champion rises to the occasion, and Blaine Johnson had earned a position of ultimate success at 300 miles per hour. He did it with the strength of family, with the bond of brotherhood, and he did it with a sense of pride only found in the greatest champions. He would leave us doing what he loved best, and what others loved to watch him do so well. Blaine epitomized all that is good and decent in the drag racing sport, and now watches over so others can do the same.
When you're standing there on the starting line at Indy and you see this happen, what goes through your mind?
When it first happened, when he crashed after that run, you know, I couldn't see anything, you know, because it was, you know, it was kind of dusty down there next to the wall. So I knew something had happened because a big cloud of dust down there. It wasn't a normal run. And when we got down there to the shutdown area and saw the condition of the car, I knew he was probably going to be in trouble. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't pretty. I mean, you obviously you're hoping for the best the whole time. You know, it wasn't. You know, I figured the whole time that he was going to probably be okay. You know, he'd make it. You know, because you know he's such a tough, strong kid. You know, he would make it. Turns out he didn't, but you know, we never gave up hope. You know.
Alan, not only are you here, the entire Travers Tool team is here with Jim Head. It's where you need to be at the races.
Well, you know, this is what we love to do. This is what my brother loved to do. And, you know, he wouldn't want it any other way. You know, he'd be over here if he could still be here.
You know, after Indy, it was, you know, I think the natural reaction is to, you know, call it quits, you know, because it was our, you know, a family race team. So when one of them falls out, you know, I think the natural reaction was to quit. And those, to be honest with you, those thoughts did go through my mind, you know. We were actually spending a lot of time with the people from R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company that weekend at Indy because we had already agreed in principle to, you know, race for Winston in 1997. And I think that the folks at R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company were probably the biggest influence to get me back on the racetrack, because, you know, they wanted us to, you know, they were committed to us, and they wanted to, if there's any way we could find it in ourselves to go back out and race and find somebody to, you know, take Blaine's spot, that they were all behind it. So, you know, that's probably the one thing that got my mind around it, because it was, you know, I could take that opportunity to further Blaine's, you know, legacy, and just show him that, you know, had he not passed away in Indy, we were going to win the championship.
Was there any way, if Blaine could have spoken to you, that he would have let you quit?
Yeah, you know, I honestly, I think Blaine does talk to me, especially the relatively early years after his death. You know, I'm quite positive we've had a number of conversations.
What does he say to you?
Doing a good job. Keep it up.
That gives you strength.
Absolutely.
Would he have wanted to go on if something had happened to you?
That's hard to say. I would imagine he would. Yeah.
What does it mean to you that in 10 years of racing, almost, 20 years later, 25 years later, people hold your brother in such high esteem? What does that mean to you?
You know, knowing that, it makes me feel good. It makes me feel that there's validation to what he did, and that the things that my family did afterwards to keep his memory alive were fruitful. I think my brother would like to be remembered as a good competitor, a good family man. You know, I mean, he was a He was a good husband. He was a good father. You know, I'd have to say that, you know, some of the greatest memories of my brother during drag racing is, you know, just the fun that we had together, you know, setting goals for ourselves and achieving those things, and racing and winning together. I mean, it was a blast. I would think that, you know, there's times when I got to thank him for some of his inspiration, because, you know, there's been some pretty great wins, a lot of great accomplishments that have come through this building here, and, you know, I'd have to say that he's partially responsible for that.